Hello and welcome to WorkPro Files. I'm your host Luke Muggerman, and today we'll be speaking to Jodi Sharman from Marsh Advantage. Now, Jodi has an extensive history in the world of insurance, and we thought who better to tell us about all that crazy world of insurance than Jodi. So for many, the insurance world can be very complex and basically full of a lot of jargon that perhaps only experts understand. But today we're going to demystify that world. Jodi's going to speak to us in layman terms about the importance of insurance and why, as business owners and people conducting business, need to ensure that they have the right cover, because things can go wrong, and when they do, it's important that they've got the right insurances in place to ensure the business can carry on and move forward. So good afternoon, Jodi, and welcome to Work Profiles.
Thank you for having me.
I guess off the top, Jodi, and perhaps for those listening that don't fully understand exactly what an insurance broker is and how that would differ to going directly to an insurance company, can you perhaps explain to the listeners why or what exactly, as an insurance broker, you do?
Okay, so the difference between probably insurance brokers and insurance companies is insurance brokers have a wide range of products that they can review and different insurance companies that they can talk to look after your needs and create insurances and policies that are really there to protect your company. Just like you would employ the services of a solicitor to look after your legal obligations, or even an accountant to look after your tax matters, a qualified insurance advisor or professional would provide the experience and advice that can give you coverage that will best protect your business, and that's what we do.
Great. And are you finding that people are more aware nowadays of their insurances and the products that you provide, and do they have the level of coverage that they need if things go wrong?
We see a lot of new businesses come through our doors. A lot of them are client referrals. Most of the time we see people when they've probably had a bad experience with their insurance company. So a lot of people we find probably aren't insured correctly, and it might just be because they've bought a product offline, or they haven't probably been explained the differences in the cover. So as brokers, we go and see every single one of our clients, and we will review the client's risk and talk to them about their business and what they actually need. And then we will come down and provide a list of every type of insurance that exists that can help their business get back up and running if something was to happen. And they don't have to take everything. We understand there's business risk and then there's, risk you take insurance on. But as risk advisors, we can at least give you that full list, and then you can make the decision as a business owner as to what type of insurances you want to take. But if I look at an overall, the amount of people that I see, I would say 70% of people are not insured correctly.
Right. That's quite
it's a very big number.
It is. And what sort of risk or for accidents and for the like, damages and all those, do you cover?
Okay, so we can cover absolutely any type of insurance. So I work with Marsh. They're the biggest insurance broker in the world, and we have different areas within Marsh that look after everything. So we can do house, car, business insurance, professional indemnity insurance, the directors and officers insurance, all the way through to we could do claims management if you had a major motor fleet and you needed someone to run your claims because you didn't have internal people to do that. We can do that. There's the list of products that we have is in excess of 100 different products.
Really?
And lines of insurance, extending to life insurance and everything else as well.
Right, that is.
And income protection, and we're pretty much a one-stop shop.
Yep. Great, fantastic. And the work you do, because I know you've got an extensive background even within the group training.
Yes, the employment service sector. I've been working in that sector now for about 11 years.
Yep. And
I'd have in excess of 100 on my books, whether they're group training companies, RTOs, labour hire companies, or just an employment service provider that has a government deed. It's a great industry to be involved in. I like being specialised, and I love seeing the people that come through the industry and where they come out at the end.
Yep.
But yeah, their policies are very specific to the industry, and we've actually got products that have been set up and developed that's exclusive to us and don't exist with other insurance brokers. They don't have access to them. and there's a lot of coverages in there that probably wouldn't be in if they went to another broker in their coverages. So what we actually have done is sat down with the organisations and the associations that look after these members, and we've had over the last 10 years days where we've nutted out situations. If this happened, how could we protect that? If this, another thing happened, how would we protect it? So we've looked at things from protecting people at third-party locations. A lot of these people place what we can consider to be an employee or a job seeker at a third-party location. So they need cover if something happens at that location. If they're not a paid employee, workers' compensation doesn't kick in, so we have another insurance that can protect them and cover them if there was an injury sustained. We cover for employment practices liability, which usually never extends to third-party locations. So that would protect the organisation if they were ever sued by that particular person for things like sexual harassment, wrongful dismissal, discrimination in the workplace, a lot of things that we are seeing happen on a more regular basis.
Yep, fantastic. And what about with regard to the advent of, most of us now living our lives online? Theft is, in a physical sense, obviously still there and perhaps commonplace in some places. But what about the ever-growing, the cyber security? Are you seeing more and more of that? What's going on there?
That's probably the biggest part of growth for the insurance brokers and insurance companies at the moment. I've got some statistics here on the amount of cyber attacks that have occurred. So 60% of all cyber attacks have been targeted over the last 12 months for small to medium businesses, and 700,000 businesses in Australia have experienced some type of cybercrime. So the statistics are there. And we are telling people it's not, if you haven't been hit, it's a matter of when will you get hit. Really? And the statistics are showing that every single company in Australia will be hit in the next 3 years. And you can buy insurance to protect yourself, and it's a simple product. Insurance companies need 2 or 3 questions to be answered to put the product in place, and it starts at $1,000.
For $1,000 for a year?
For $1,000 for a year, and protects you up to $1 million of full cyber cover.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that's an absolute no-brainer, you would think.
It is. The cyber product, a lot of people don't understand, what does it cover? So just so you understand, the 3 main things that it covers is it covers the attack itself, so the attack, any breach of privacy, and anything stolen. So I would have right now 16 cyber claims open on my desk.
Really?
Yep.
That many?
Yeah, it's
and
just...
big and small?
The smallest one's about 15,000 and the biggest one's at 350,000.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and as far as your claims are concerned, you mentioned the cyber ones. What other claims are you seeing right now?
the second biggest to cyber is the management liability claim. So where I was talking before about an employee suing for sexual harassment or wrongful dismissal or something along those. You have a dispute in the workplace where a management liability can protect you from that, and all your legals are covered. I've got 4 big cases, very big cases open in the OH&S sector. So where people have been injured in the workplace, work cover has paid, but then the work cover authority has then gone back to the employer, and then fines and penalties are being issued against them for not providing a safe workplace and all of these types of things. So other prosecutions can happen where the work cover provider can then come back to you as an organisation. We've got a policy again that's built into the management liability that protects that. And it's called statutory liability, and again that's probably another big thing. Unless you've got someone that's probably really reviewed your insurance and given you the right advice, people don't have that cover. And in the management liability, it could be something like $500 a year, and it's probably something that my biggest case going at the moment is around the $400,000 mark for legal costs. And, the guy's paid $500 for cover. Yeah, right. So, something like that, I believe, could, make or break a company, especially a small to medium business. Yep. And does that then take into effect the personal liabilities that they might be open to? Yes. Yep. So the company's protected, plus the directors of the company and everything else, all within that policy. So fines, penalties, the legal protection against the company to represent themselves, and everything's all protected. Right. Excellent. So I guess the other thing I was keen to find out about is specifically some real life examples, and you spoke of a couple there. Yep. But I guess in other areas where you might be able to give examples, I think the peace of mind that people must get from having a proper insurance program in place. Obviously, if anything does happen,
and they can fall back, and that's where you, I guess, would come, knight in shining armour, and be that, that saviour that does mean that their business and can carry on.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Oh, look, one of the things that we do when we go and see a client is we'll get a copy of their current policies and do a full review on their covers versus what we think they should have, and we talk through that with the clients. I'm doing a case at the moment where we've recently been appointed as a broker after an incident's occurred. This particular client's got a $5 million loss to their business, and they weren't insured for it, and unfortunately their broker hadn't probably done the right job and advised them of this potential issue that could have occurred. And to me it was basic 101. We've now been able to close that gap. They've now got that insurance going forward if that claim ever, that type of circumstance ever arose again. So they've got the protection moving forward, but now they're dealing with, suing the broker for not providing that advice previously. And we're working through all of that internally at Marsh. We've got an internal legal house a legal team that can do litigation and all of that type of stuff for our clients. So again, just another area within Marsh that we can offer a different type of service.
Yeah.
I always say to my clients, you're buying a piece of paper, and at the end of the day, you want that piece of paper to work if something goes wrong. That's how I sell insurance. You're buying a piece of paper, you want it to work, and you want to get back to how you were previous to that event occurring. And that's what an insurance broker should be able to provide you.
Yep. And do you find, though, because you are selling something that's intangible like that,
Yeah.
it's harder than selling something tangible? Like, do people have that she'll be right mentality? Or
A few do. No, I'm going to be honest though, most of the ones, once I sit down and go right through, it might take an hour or 2 hour meeting where we've gone through their business risk, and I've then, written a program and go and sit back with them and go, this could happen, this could happen. A lot actually think, oh, we never thought of that. We're too busy running the company. We've never probably thought of that type of an interruption, whether it be on a farm where, the water that they're using can't be used and they've got to pay for water to come in. There's things that are outside, I think, what people think insurance is that can be covered. So it's a matter of really sitting down and understanding what the client does fully, where they get their resources from. What if that stops? What if their supplier isn't there anymore? Can we cover them not being able to get raw material to create their product, and then they have a business interruption, which again can all be covered as long as it's all declared on the bound program with the insurance company. But there's things like that that if you sat down with the client, you'd be able to understand their needs and really protect them properly.
Right. And as far as the claims and the turnarounds and getting things back up and running after perhaps a disaster or catastrophic event, what sort of time frames do you typically? How long does it take for you to get that ball going? Yeah,
look, I've got a lot of claims open at the moment for fire. So I've had probably 4 major fires at client locations in the last 6 months. One was a house. Which was, the client's got a business with us and everything else, and they had their house with us. Right. And their heater had a faulty part in it, burnt down the house. And lucky enough, they all got out. They were all in the house and lucky enough to get all out. And we've just settled theirs 6 months on. Yep. So it's taken 6 months to do the full review, the investigation with the fire authority, and the insurance company's done a lot of reports of whether we should be rebuilding because it's only 3/4 burnt down. Right. But again, going right through the right protocols and having the right assessors involved internally at Marsh, we've been able to get the client a full settlement. They're now knocking the house down, and they've been paid 12 months rent to go and live somewhere else, whilst they've had their last 6 months living somewhere else, because the house would take a good 12 months to rebuild by the time you get permits and all these things. So we've negotiated the full payment settlement to them, another 12 months rent somewhere else in the next street, basically, to allow them to live. And they're going to knock the place down and rebuild it bigger and better than it even was. And again, that's working with the client and working out what the client really wanted. And it wasn't just, oh, there's your money, go and rebuild it as it is. A lot of work's gone into the, all the quotes that we've got. They got quotes based on their new sized house and all these things. And the insurance company that we worked with was really good on this. And, look, it did take 6 months, but for 6 months they were living in the next street and they were happy with the process. And we just got a letter from them last week saying that without us, they don't believe if they were direct with a direct insurer, would they ever have had this outcome or ever have had the service that they've had from us. So that's another thing that makes me happy to do my job when I get those
it must be very rewarding and feel great when you can help people that way. And I mean, you must have great relationships with these clients over time and helping them in when stuff does happen.
Yeah, a lot of my clients, it's funny, I was looking at my book the other day at how many clients I have and how long standing some of them have been, and I've got one client that's actually been with me for 15 years, and probably the majority at least 8 to 10 years.
Yep.
So, and then
I saw
obviously
somewhere you haven't lost a client either, is that right?
Yeah, we've lost in the last 10 years, we've only lost one client, and I will say it wasn't our fault. It was due to them having a change of ownership, and obviously new owner has their own preferred supplier, so it wasn't something we did, which is a good feeling to know that we've had that strike rate.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that is a fantastic strike rate. Okay, Jodi, if we can turn our attention now to workers' compensation.
Yes.
I'd be interested to hear what you've got to say about that.
Okay, so we find when doing a review on a client's insurance program and portfolio that the workers' compensation usually will be a lot more expensive than the commercial insurances that they purchase. It's usually their second biggest spend in relation to all outgoings. We have got
What's the biggest?
What's the biggest? Payroll usually.
Right.
Yeah. Payroll's usually the biggest, and then workers' comp's second close to that. That's probably about at 80% of the businesses we look at. So we always will discuss with our client where their workers' compensation's at. Are they happy with their provider? We ask about if there's any open claims with their current providers that they're not happy with and things like that. But one of the things for bigger clients, and when I say bigger clients, that is anyone that spends in excess of $250,000 a year on workers' compensation. There is a what was it called?
Risk management funding.
Yes, we'll call it a risk management funding. So a risk management amount that gets contributed to a provider, someone like Marsh. There's probably about 4 or 5 different people in Victoria I know of that can offer this type of service. And what they'll do is a full risk management review on your current procedures. So they'll sit down. So I've done one recently with a client. It's about 12 months ago we did one. And the example was the HR person was involved, the OH&S person was involved, and 4 people from our workers' comp team were involved. And we went through all the current rates that they're being charged. It was a labour hire firm. The current rates that they're being charged, where they sit versus other people in the labour hire industry, current claims, how to possibly close them quicker, and also looked at their procedures. And 5 points were given back from our team on this review. This review, a $15,000 amount was given from their insurer because they did spend in excess of $5 million. So the amount was a $15,000 risk management fee, was given to Marsh, and from that, the Marsh team delivered 5 points of change that they thought this company needed to do to minimise their workers' comp exposure. So over 12 months has gone, and we've just done the renewal literally last week, and the saving to the client in 12 months is $280,000 in their workers' comp premiums being reduced. And so they didn't pay for it. Their insurance company that they were already with paid for this to be done, and it was basically a free service to them. It didn't cost them anything except for 4 or 5 hours of their time. By the time a few of the interviews were done and a few emails back and forth. And $280,000 saving on a bottom line for any company is a fantastic result.
Absolutely, it is. And do a lot of people, do you find your business, and obviously you're telling them that that's available to them, and there are many that take advantage of that sort of?
Every single client that qualifies for it eventually comes through. Yeah, a lot of people say 4 hours is a lot to give for our people.
Not going to get that sort of return.
Yeah, I think once we're able to show them the reasoning why we need that much, and they see the return, that then they invest it. And I haven't seen one client be unhappy with the outcome ever.
Yeah. So, Jodi, I'd be interested to know if a company is doing business with a company that goes into liquidation, is there any type of insurance that businesses can take to cover them for that?
Yes, definitely. That's called debtors insurance, or trade credit insurance is another terminology in the insurance industry. We have had 3 current clients take that out in the last 2 weeks. The policy is provided by, there's 7 different insurers in Australia that will offer this cover. It's become quite competitive in the last few years, so it's a lot more affordable for companies to buy. One of the clients that we signed up last week basically put forward their top 6 suppliers, and and those 6 suppliers they wanted insurance against, just in case, because they carry debts of up to $250,000 each, where they provide a service to them and then they don't have to pay it for 90 days. So in that 90 days, if that company went under and became insolvent, that means this trade credit policy would then kick in and they would receive their funds from their trade credit provider. There's also a lot of things that trade credit insurance then extends to. So if you do take a trade credit insurance policy out, you get automatic reviews by the trade credit provider on all of your suppliers, if that's what you've opted to take. So if you're insuring everyone you supply to, you can email in, and within 3 hours they'll email you back if you should be trading with that company and where they're at, and things like that. So they will tell you basically if companies are not doing good, and if maybe you should be reducing the amount of work you're giving to them without being paid for it,
right,
to minimise your risk, because a lot of companies, a lot of businesses are going through some difficulties at the moment, and if a company did go down and you were owed a lot of money, it would a lot of companies may not be able to recover from that.
Yeah. And what would that sort of cost the average business?
The policies start at $5,000. There's nothing under $5,000, and that would give you up to, I think the minimum on that one is a $100,000 limit. And again, it's got to be pre-signed off by the insurer on who the limit would be available to. But yeah, the ones that my clients are buying are between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. But they're companies that turn over around the $20 million mark.
Right.
Yeah. So if your company was turning over, $10 million, you could be looking at, between $5,000 and $10,000 for a policy.
Okay. Excellent. So Jodi, what is another area you're seeing a lot of claims in?
Another area we're seeing a lot of claims in is around the professional indemnity policy. I've got a few open at the moment. One I'll probably talk about in particular. So an organisation that I looked after had a contract, and in that contract it said that they had to do police checks on everybody, and they had to be clear police checks for anyone that worked on that particular contract.
Interesting.
So in particular, this organisation unfortunately didn't follow that rule that was a part of the contract. Who the contract was held by since found out that one of the people at the organisation who was working on their contract had a criminal history, and they've now withdrawn the contract, and now seeking a refund of in excess of $500,000 for the work that was previously done because it was a breach of contract. So we do encourage every single client of ours to do a police check on every single employee that comes through the door.
Good to hear.
For the sake of around a $50 premium, it's not worth risking your business or risking contracts that you're going to lose for the sake of not doing it. It's a condition, one, in a lot of contracts, but two, it's a really good risk management. So even companies that don't have contracts where they're required to have everybody have a clear history, we say that it should be a bare minimum for risk management to do a police check on anyone working within your company. We recommend that they're done every couple of years, because obviously things happen within years of people being employed. You don't know what's happening with your employees, obviously, in their private life. I'm pretty sure they're not going to probably tell you if something's going wrong. It's for that reason that we really highly recommend that people engage in bare minimum having a police check done on everyone in the service. One of the cases we've done recently we're looking at is a contamination that's been done by a disgruntled employee. We've further investigated that this employee was not just disgruntled, they did have a criminal history, and they have sabotaged someone else's business before. And if this person had probably spent the $50 on getting a police check, they probably never would have hired him and wouldn't be in this position they're in now. So, I ask people to think about what would happen if you were a manufacturing risk, or you were producing some type of product, even a consumable product, whether it be a drink or a food or something along those lines, and you had a disgruntled employee that caused damage to your product that then went out to shelf and went out to people's homes. How would you deal with the recall and the things that then would come of that? So the other insurances we can offer to people too that are in that area, we can offer them a product recall insurance that would cover contamination by a disgruntled employee. It covers the recall costs itself and the interruption to your business for it, the advertising costs to get the recall back in, and also all the government charges that occur, obviously, because of the recall, if there was anything in the health if it was, if the Victorian government came in and shut you down.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that we can offer, and again, with the risk management that we do with a client, we would go through all of these processes.
Right, so that's quite amazing. You must have quite a vast knowledge of industry, different,
Yes, we do.
And thinking of the worst. Do you find yourself having to think of the worst possible case scenario and coming back from that? Yeah,
we do. We don't just work off our current examples of what we've got. We do, again, when I said we sit with a client, we will talk to them about what is they would maybe not have, things that they would not have thought of that could occur. And we create risk management procedures around protecting that.
Yep, excellent. Well, I think on that note, and great plug, by the way, for the police checking. I didn't know you were going to say that, but that's a good way and a good place to finish. So thank you very much for coming in today, Jodi. We really appreciated your time, and I'm sure our listeners will too. And appreciate it. And before we do go, bit of a plug for yourself. How do people get in touch with you if they want to engage your services?
So if you Google my name, Jodi Sharman at Marsh, it will come up. My phone number's on there. My email address, it's jodi.sharman@marsh.com. If you want to email me, I'm happy to talk to you via email, or if you'd like to pick up the phone and call me, I'm happy to take calls.
24 hours too, I see.
I am 24 hours.
It's a young family that...
We work around the clock. Everybody needs insurance. It doesn't matter what time it is.
Yeah, excellent. No worries. Well, thank you very much, Jodi. Really appreciate it.
No problems. Thank you.
Cheers.